Russia has told India to pay for oil in Chinese RMB, and surprisingly, the Modi government agreed. For a country that prides itself on strategic autonomy, this is quite a twist. So why did India comply? India's biggest state oil company has already made several RMB transactions. The reason is simple. India can't afford to lose Russian oil. In the first half of 2025, Russia supplied 35 to 40% of India's total oil imports, up from less than 2% in 2021. That's a 20 times explosion. Thanks to $10 to $15 discounts per barrel, India saved over $17 billion in 3 years. The war in Ukraine has been a golden deal for India. So now you know why New Delhi is supporting Israel for war. India once tried to pay in rupees, but that plan collapsed. No one wants rupees. It is unstable, the capital account is closed, and it lacks global liquidity. Russia simply refused to accept rupees because they can't be converted into hard currency. US sanctions have made things worse in India. Washington kept Russian oil prices and hit shipping companies with secondary sanctions, hurting Indian firms, all while the US itself kept buying Russian oil and minerals. Hard to believe it, right? But it is true. India called this hypocrisy, but it had no alternative supply, and losing Russian oil would trigger inflation in India. With the US dollar unreliable, rupees unwanted, and UAE dirhams cumbersome, the RMB became the only practical option. For Russia, RMB can go straight into reserves and is now seen as the most stable non-Western currency. It's cheaper too, cutting 2 to 3% in transaction costs, and it can immediately be spent on Chinese goods like refined oil, machinery, and electronics. A closed trade loop has formed. India loves to talk about being a great power, but unlike China or the Gulf states, it lacks both a full industrial system and strong financial tools. Its influence rests mostly on population and geography, not real economic muscle. India paying Russia in RMB is part of a global pushback against the US dollar dominance. By weaponizing the dollar through endless sanctions, Washington has pushed countries toward alternatives. And China, with its massive manufacturing base and stable currency, fits the bill. Around 35% of China's oil imports are already settled in RMB. India's shift shows one thing clearly. In a crisis, power goes to whoever can provide a stable financial system. If the United States uses sanctions as a weapon to go against whoever it says is an enemy, of course every country has the right to choose any currency that they want. India once dreamed of cheap Russian oil, close US ties, and a rising rupee. In reality, Modi's daydreams was weakened by Putin, but China doesn't want a strong RMB. Do you know why? Follow me, an East perspective to see the world.